Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl Major, and I want to welcome you to Westford Area Real Estate, the podcast. And today we have a returning guest. Ellen Hardy was with us in September, and she is back to update us. And I can't imagine that you don't know who Ellen Hardy is, but just in case you don't, Ellen and her husband Mike have lived in Westford since 1967, and during that time they have owned 4 historic buildings in Westford Center with the goal of preserving them. And Ellen was also the town moderator. I never can say that word without tripping over my tongue or my lips or whatever. She was the town moderator from 1993 to 2017. So welcome, Ellen. I'm so psyched you're here because you have such wonderful news and a fabulous story to tell us. So please update us.
Well, what a fall it has been. When I left you last in September, we being the board of directors of the Drew Farmhouse Inc., the nonprofit that was created in August. And we were looking forward to the special town meeting on October 16th, because that is basically at the kernel of the core of the financing for this project that we are undertaking to make 5 workforce affordable apartments in what used to be the Coldwell Banker building. And we went to town meeting on October 16th asking for money from 2 pots of money. The town has set aside what's called community preservation money. And we were asking for $1 million of that for affordable housing and $450,000 for historical preservation. This money can only be spent for those 2 categories or open space. So town meeting doesn't have a choice to use it for other purposes. It was a big town meeting. There were 1,100 voters there at the Westford Academy. And when we made our presentation, 2/3 of those voters voted yes to allocate that money for this. So that was really, we felt, an endorsement for what we've been working on since last winter. Mm-hmm. As I mentioned last time, we have had this group of boards that we've had to go to get permission to do this project, and each of those 6 boards have unanimously supported what we're doing. So to have town meeting say yes with such a loud voice really was wonderful. So now the work begins. So that was in October, and it took us just about a month to get all our ducks in order and to actually close on the building and receive the key from the previous owner. And that happened on November 20th, and then it was ours, which was a huge, huge step. So the first thing we had to do in terms of the physical transformation of this farmhouse from 40 real estate cubicles into 5 apartments.
Including mine.
Including yours. Yeah, you know, that building, when my husband and I bought what had been the Westford nursing home, we didn't realize how many lives had been touched by the fact that that building was a nursing home for 48 years. I mean, just think of the people who live there and the families.
It gives me chills.
Well, you know, the same thing is true of this Drew farmhouse. Mm-hmm. Not only did the Drew family live there until Mabel Drew died in the 1960s, but then it became a real estate office. So between the people who have worked there, and I'll give you a next chapter to that when I get to another group, which is the people who went there and ended up buying a house because they walked into that building and became part of Westford. That we never even had thought of. So there we were with this wonderful building, but it was full of cubicles where it had been all divided, including the farmhouse, on the first floor of both the main house and the L. In 1994, that had all been adapted into office space. So we already have a partnership with Habitat for Humanity, Cheryl, which just came out of the blue. It was their initiative. And the Drew Farmhouse has permission to actually put 7 living units in that space, 5 in the farmhouse, 2 in the barn. And the barn transformation is going to be Habitat for Humanity. They're going to do that whole thing, choose the 2 families who will live there. And their executive director had said to us, you know, and we're not selling them that space, we're gifting them that space. And their in-kind contribution was maybe they could help out a little bit in the farmhouse, send in a painting crew. So when we were looking at the demolition for this huge area, it's almost 5,000 square feet, including the barn, I thought, I wonder if Habitat could help us a little bit in the taking out.
What a great idea. I had no idea how that was going to happen.
Well,
but you do work miracles, I must say.
I had had the good fortune of working with Habitat, nothing to do with the Drew Farmhouse, on a completely different project where I had seen this Tuesday crew in action. So I mentioned it to the executive director, Kevin, and he said, oh, sure, we have a Tuesday work crew. I think they could come next Tuesday, December 5th. Well, I just cannot describe for you what December 5th of 2023 was like at 70 Boston Road. Starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, a group of, there were so many I couldn't count, but I think there were 15, in this case all men, some days women too, who are the Tuesday work crew. And that group came in with their claw hammers and their hammers, and in 2.5 hours, by 11:30, 3.5 hours, by 11:30, they had taken out every one of those work cubicles. They had pulled up 3,690 pounds of carpeting, and they divided it all so that it could be repurposed, not repurposed, but gotten rid of in the best way possible. So all the wood went in one pile. The carpeting went in another pile. The metal went in a third pile. The wallboard went in a fourth pile. And they are just a joy. I mean, everybody's loving being there. It's such a win-win. And then for icing upon the cake, about an hour and a half later, 6 young people from a group in Lowell called Youth Build, which is done by Community Teamwork. These young people are co-ed, are all learning the trade, and they came in with their supervisor and teacher. They started at the farmhouse end doing exactly the same thing that Habitat was doing in your old office and in the reception area. They met in the middle. And between those two groups, all volunteer labor, by the end of that day, the building was literally swept clean. It was just immaculate, except for these piles.
Yeah. And I remember that you sent me a text and you said, Cheryl, if you can, in the morning, come. You've got to see what's going on. And I had appointments and I couldn't go, but I went the end of the day. I said, I've got to go. And my jaw dropped. My jaw dropped. It was amazing. I mean, the entrance had changed. The reception area, gone. My cubicle, gone. It was a miracle.
It was a miracle.
It was amazing.
And I'm sorry for you and your nostalgia,
I
but
know.
it sure was
Yeah.
a magic step
Yeah.
for the transformation to housing. And then the next day, this wonderful group, many residents may be familiar with our Recycle Almost Everything Days, electronics and more, that the Recycling Commission does 3 or 4 times a year. And we contract with a company in Lowell. It's called Northeast Materials, also called Liquidated Stuff. And they just know how to get rid of things and get rid of it in a good way rather than just taking it all to the incinerator. So through my membership on the Recycling Commission, I knew who that was and called Francine, and fabulous to work with. And they had people there the next day, Cheryl, taking all these piles and putting them in dumpsters and taking them to the right place. So we now have a tabula rasa to start with from that. So we have so much to look forward to. The architectural plans are drawn. Jim Zegowitz, a Westford resident who works for an architectural firm called MZO, has drawn our plans. So those are ready to go. Those should go to the building commissioner this coming week, so we get our building permit. And then at the start of the new year, our contractor, another Westford resident, Stephen Gauthier of Gauthier Construction, will actually start the process of bringing in builders and plumbers and electricians and actually creating those spaces.
And I can tell you with confidence from the posting that I've done about finally closing, and it was one of the longest transactions I have ever been part of in my more than, I won't say how many years, but more than 25 years as a local realtor. But I posted about it on my Facebook page and on Westford Area Real Estate, that particular Facebook page that I have. And I have had so many people comment about the sold sign outside and about how happy they are that the building is going to be saved and not just razed and turned into condos or something like that. So, kudos to you for coming up with this, and, great thanks to Habitat for their involvement. It is a win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
And it's important that people do know, what you just mentioned, that from Boston Road, that farmhouse will always look as it does now. That was our promise to the Historical Commission. So all of the renovations will be interior, and we'll do some fixing up on the outside. The front porch sags a little bit to the north, but that's very fixable. When the renovations were done, I'm not sure if it was the 1980 or the 1994 work, but a great big glass door was put to the side of the barn door. And that will go back to looking more like a barn door. So any changes that we will do will be taking it back to the 1865 original Drew Farmhouse.
Fabulous.
And I guess the other two things that have happened since we last met is that we have contracted with an energy company to look at the building and find out how we can make an 1865 farmhouse as sustainable as we can. Do we use mini splits? Can we put solar somewhere on the property? So we've had 3, maybe 4 Zoom meetings with them. They've seen the building through Zoom, and they will make their recommendations, and our architect will incorporate those into it. So our efforts to make the building as sustainable, given climate change and what Sustainable Westford has asked us to do, those are going in parallel to the construction plans.
That's fabulous. And am I correct in that the heat will not be fossil fuel?
That's correct. Yeah, it will all be electric.
Fabulous.
And again, we don't have the recommendations from this company in Lexington. It's called A9 Green for whatever reason. But I'm hoping that when they make their recommendations, they will also tell us, what the potential savings are and what the impact is in terms of the positive impact in terms of the climate and the environment. That will be great.
That's fabulous. And time frame for this to really get rolling and end in sight? Do we have?
If all goes as it is on schedule to go now, Steve Gothier, our builder, wants to start in late January or early February to actually. We may even have, there's additional demolition that needs to be done that Habitat couldn't do because it involves taking out some walls and some electricity and plumbing. So another person supervised by Steve will do that. But that might even happen this month. There's not much before Christmas. We're 2 weeks away, but that will be first. So everything is lined up to happen. Really, that building permit and the demolition permit, which are on the building commissioner's desk, the demo permit is. Building permit will be there next week. That's the only thing we need, and then it's just absolutely full steam ahead. Steve has his electrician. He met with the heating contractors there last week. He met with the plumbers. So all the subs are chosen and have this on their calendar to do in early 2023. It will take most of 2024 to do it. We see probably occupancy for the 5 apartments in the fall, late fall of 2024, a year from now for sure. Yeah. And then the role of the board of directors at that point will become property managers. We as a board will be managing the building, and we won't hire a property manager. That's one of our jobs as the board of directors to do that.
I'm curious, you mentioned that the exterior will not be changed. I noticed that there's a tree that was down. There was some kind of overgrown shrubbery that's gone. So it's been cleaned up a bit. What will the front look like? There was some talk about getting rid of some of the bituminous.
Yes, exactly. Taking out the foundation plantings was, again, something that was asked of us and we'd planned to do anyway by the Historical Commission. Because if you look at the older pictures of this building, the oldest one we have, I believe, is from the 1950s. Farmers didn't plant arborvitae.
No.
So That's all gone. But the other thing that has had to happen for the real estate accommodation was that whole area in front of the building toward 495 is all blacktop. And we have told the Historical Commission and the town boards that we will be taking out almost all of that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of parking in the back,
yes.
even more than there is in
yes.
the front. So that's where the people who live there will actually park. Mm-hmm. We are leaving enough parking along Boston Road that there will be 4 parking spaces. It will be public access because the town owns conservation land. I think we talked about this in mm-hmm. September, behind the Peace Trail created by the Scouts goes back there. So there will be 4 public parking places for that. But we hope to take out all of the rest of that so that it's just grass.
Okay.
And you can actually see the farmhouse itself.
And any charging stations? I know that was kind of bandied about.
Yeah. Sue Thomas, who was hired just within the last year as the town's sustainability coordinator, approached us about that because its proximity to 495
mm-hmm.
is nifty. If you look at your little, whatever you have, amp meter in your electric car and see you need charging. We're going to start, we had said we'd do 2, but to be honest, we're going to start with 1. I see an awful lot of charging stations that are at the town hall, Westford
Yes,
Academy.
that's true.
And I don't see cars charging at them yet. I mean, I think it's going to grow.
Yeah.
But there is an expense to that. Sue has said she'll get us the grants to do it. We'll provide the electricity when mm-hmm. our electrician is there. But mm-hmm. I spoke with her within the last week and a half and said, let's wire it for 2, but let's start with 1, see what the demand is. But we'll definitely have at least 1.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So all of this is very exciting. And if people want to get involved, we're kind of winding down mm-hmm. time-wise, but mm-hmm. I just want to take a minute and let people know that if they would like to participate mm-hmm. in the efforts here, that we gratefully accept donations of any size, and we will have posted the mailing address, the post office box, as well as a phone number if people have follow-up questions so that they can be involved directly.
Yeah. We do have a member of our board of directors and another volunteer who said that they will be the coordinator of volunteers. We don't know yet what we'll be asking you to do, but if you just want to be involved, we'll put you on the list. And not to be mercenary, but we do have about a $170,000 gap at the moment in our $2.6 million budget. Mm-hmm. So if people wanted to give us a Christmas or a holiday present, that would be wonderful.
Super.
And the post office box of 391, the telephone is my home phone. We don't have a corporate phone yet, but I'd be glad to have people call that number and answer any questions they have. And also, if you don't think it's a nifty idea, let us know that too, so that we can answer the concerns that you have about this. Because, $1.4 million of taxpayer money has gone into this. And even though 2/3 said yes, 1/3 said no, and lots of people weren't at town meeting. So we want to hear from everybody and answer questions.
Right. And it did not raise and does not raise taxes. That was money that was already there.
Thank you for pointing that out. If you look at your property tax bill, it says community preservation surcharge. Mm-hmm. So we pay that 3% every year when we pay our taxes, no matter what.
Right.
And so all the Drew Farmhouse did was go to the town meeting and the Community Preservation Committee and say, of that money that's already set aside, may we use this percentage of it for the farmhouse.
Fabulous.
But we didn't ask for more money than the town already had set aside.
Great.
Yeah.
Ellen, thank you so much for coming back.
It's fun to be back.
Oh, it's fun to have you here. And will you come back again?
We'll come back for Chapter 3.
Okay, wonderful. We need to do periodic updates so that people can understand what wonderful things are going over there at that building that you and I both treasure.
We do.
So thank you, Ellen.
Thanks, Cheryl.
So this has been Westford Area Real Estate, the podcast. I'm Cheryl Major, here with Ellen Hardy. Thanking you for listening and for being here, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.